Right, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Today's video is something a little bit different. I'm just going to be sat here talking to you because what I really want to do, the aim of this video, is to clarify exactly what is going on with the Hellraiser franchise at the moment. Because some people may be well aware, hopefully, because you frequent my channel, that there is a TV series in the works as well as a movie. Now, they are two separate things, and I want to get into that and how they came to be and where to expect both of these properties to land, and I guess speculate on my own thoughts and feelings on them as well, and also just to correct some slight bits of information which were touched upon in a previous video, which wasn't quite clear cut at the time, but I've since got some new information. So hopefully some of this stuff will be new to you, but if anything, come join me on this ride on a property that presumably we all love, i.e. Hellraiser. Now, this video is sponsored by my original film. You can find a link to it down below. I'm crowdfunding. It's called Blackfields. It's a Viking horror epic. Think Hellraiser crossed with The Thing, crossed with Valhalla. That's what we're going for here, so check it out, support an original property, support me, it'll be down below. So, let's take a look at the Hellraiser TV series, right? What are we doing with this Hellraiser TV series? Now, this is something which was recently confirmed, but it had been announced a fair while ago. So, in terms of the Hellraiser TV series, it's something which I'm massively for. I really do find a lot of positivity in everything surrounding the TV series. The movie side of it is very much if, buts and maybes, which we'll touch on in a minute, and you'll see why. You'll fundamentally kind of get the understanding of why one sounds more promising than the other. And I really think that because both of these are completely separate, they're not going to be together, they don't tie into one another at all. They have, in fact, separate rights owners, which we want to touch on that as well, because that's a whole other ball game. But the TV series is much more positive. Now, the rights owners of the TV series come way back when the third movie was made, and it's a chap called Lawrence Cuppin. He has the TV rights with another chap, and they've had them for years. Now, rights for properties are very, very tricky. Sometimes they're time-bound, sometimes people just own the rights unlimited. Now, because there's been no TV series, one would assume that Lawrence Cuppin and the other rights holder have just had the rights. There have been no time-bound limits on these. They just have the rights indefinitely. But basically, the rights holders have paired up with two very large producers in Hollywood, and we are talking about Hollywood producers here. So although this is a TV series, they have Hollywood producers behind them. So that will be Roy Lee of Vertigo Entertainment, and then Dan Farah of Farah Films. Now, I'm not going to put up their IMDb. There's not really any point to looking at that, but if you're curious, check them out. They have a lot of credits. So they're noteworthy in terms of producing very, very big high-end films. Roy Lee, typically speaking, has other people's IPs and things like that, and makes a habit of kind of turning smaller properties into bigger things, and sort of remakes and reboots, but not necessarily the sort of terrible kind. They ebb and flow in quality for sure, but that's not necessarily down to him as a producer, as a money man. But definitely people with their finger on the pulse, because again, we live in the age of reboots and remakes, and a lot of people have said that the TV series is kind of is one of those things which why do we need it? We don't need it at all. But I firmly think that a TV series has the best opportunity to explore and flesh out, pun intended, the Hellraiser universe and the mythos in the best possible way than, say, a 90-minute, to 120-minute film can, for sure. Even a series of films, you can't quite dive into the very minutiae of a world like you can in a series than you could say in a film. So I'm really looking forward to that aspect. Now, the series itself was recently announced over on Deadline. It was their exclusive, and they said that it will be dropping on HBO, which is fantastic. Now, in my initial video on that, I made a guess, because it kind of makes sense, but I've since been corrected by people involved in the project directly, is that it won't be appearing on HBO Max. From what we know anyway, it's going to be on HBO proper. Now, I don't know whether that will change. I mean, this is direct from people involved in the project, so I doubt it's going to change. But that's also dependent on what HBO choose to do with HBO and HBO Max. They may amalgamate them. I don't know. But it's looking like it's going to appear essentially against the other really high tentpole properties that they have. But it, fingers crossed, should be the first feature high concept horror that HBO have ever actually had, which will mark a debut, I guess, for HBO. Now, the other really, really good things for the series, and why I think that this is very, very good news, there are 2 writers involved in this project. Now, one of them will be more familiar to you than the other one, but both are equally of note, I believe anyway. So Michael Dougherty is, again, hugely of note, I guess more specifically because he's been directing bigger films, kind of rose to prominence, I guess, with Trick or Treat. Recently did Godzilla King of the Monsters. But this is a chap who has a very high interest in Hellraiser as a property, as a mythos. So he's a fan of Hellraiser rather than a fan of the Hellraiser movies. This is a chap who knows the comics, who knows the extended media, very, very into it. So that's great. Now, the other one, which may not be of note to you, but is really, really good as a writer, is Mark Verheiden. Now, I'm going to have to look at a page here, because it's literally page after page after page after page of what Mark Verheiden has written, and it's very, very good. People will know, huge fan here on the channel of Aliens and Predator. Well, feast your eyeballs and earballs on what he has written for those properties. A lot. Aliens 30th Anniversary, Aliens Earth War, Predator Cold War, Aliens Omnibus, Superman, Batman, Aliens The Essentials, Predator, Dark River, Aliens Outbreak, Female War Aliens, Predator the original, I think that was a Concrete Jungle, I think. Predator Concrete Jungle, Aliens versus Predator, Predator Omnibus. I mean, it quite literally just goes on and on and on. He's even done some Evil Dead. Again, he's a very, very accomplished writer. So that's quite a pair. That is quite a pair. Now, one of the benefits of having someone who loves and knows the mythos, i.e. Michael Dougherty, paired with Mark Verheiden, who has played extensively in a canon and mythos-based world, the Alien and Predator world, and in fact, he's been influential in shaping that world as well. That's a great amalgamation right there. That's fantastic. That's awesome. That's only a recipe for positivity, if you ask me. Now, the other huge benefit of the HBO series is that it'll have David Gordon Green as one of the helmers for the pilot. We don't know if he's going to be doing any more, but he'll be doing the pilot at the very least. Good, accomplished director. Good to see him attached, and I think a good opener. You know, David Gordon Green's not, he's not a crap director. I think normally the pilot episode is what the preceding directors will look to match in quality and tone and aesthetic. So that's good, I think. I think that's a good aesthetic to want to adhere to. Hopefully. Obviously, it remains to be seen But that's why I think the TV series is very, very positive. Lots of people behind it. The rights holders have sat on them for years. Evidently, they haven't had to do anything, so they're not just in it for money. Specifically, obviously they're a business, they want money, but they could have done this many, many moons ago, and they've chosen not to. As far as my understanding of the rights go, anyway. So the other benefit of this is that, for sure. And then I would imagine that Dan Farrar and Roy Lee would have had to have approached them with a noteworthy pitch of some sort to get this off the ground. And again, paired with the writers, I think that's a recipe for success. Obviously, it remains to be seen, but very, very good. HBO, great source of monumental wealth to pour into the series, which it will need to a certain degree. It doesn't need Game of Thrones money by any stretch, but it does need some realistic sets. The costume needs to be right, and of course, the practical effects. This is a series which should not, I repeat, it should not be reliant on CGI in terms of the gore. It should be heavy practical effects. It needs to be reminiscent of the original in tone and aesthetic in that regard anyway. I believe. It's my humble opinion. Now, I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's very, very good. I don't have any qualms about that. A lot of people heard HBO initially and cried, SJW and, they're going to make Pinhead a woman and all of these things. It's actually really important to note that the Cenobites were genderless. In the original Hellbound Heart, Pinhead was essentially a sexless being, very androgynous. So if they make him, her, that's fine. That is actually fine and would be very much in keeping with the original. Now, we have no word on whether Doug Bradley will appear or not. I've made some comments with respect to some people commenting in the comment section about my thoughts on whether he should or shouldn't return. I don't believe he should. This series, and I'll get to why in a second, this series is acting as something which acknowledges the wider mythos, apparently, according to the Deadline report. Anyway, it will acknowledge and act as if that world has happened, but it's not necessarily connected to it. So I do believe, and it's painful. I'm a Hellraiser fan myself, but it's you have to be you have to think pragmatically about this and just logically. Doug Bradley's not a draw to the wider populace. Okay, and unfortunately, those that he is a draw to are not enough to make this a profitable venture. So for HBO, I can't imagine they would have said, yes, give Doug Bradley the green light. It's HBO at the end of the day. Doug Bradley, although he is Pinhead and he made the role what it is, he's not a draw. If he was a draw, these movies wouldn't have been so declining in quality. They would have made good money, and we wouldn't be in the situation we are today with split rights and the monumental director DVD films that we had, right? So it's just common sense. He's not a draw, unfortunately. Also, he's getting on. If this is a series that wants to continue on down the track for many, many moons to go, it's not going to be possible. Also, he lives in the UK. This is filmed in, I presume it's going to be filmed in the States. Everyone involved in it is over in the States. So I can't imagine they're going to be filming a lot of it over here. I think it will probably be over there. So as a result of that, why would they get Doug Bradley over there? Why would he even agree to it? There's lots of stipulations that people don't sort of consider when just crying out for the actor to return. But as much as it would be good to have him involved in some capacity, and I think he should probably get a cameo, I would not want to see him as Pinhead, simply because I think that this series has legs, and I would like to see it blossom and grow into those legs for further down the line. And I know that'll be blasphemy to a lot of people, but for me, that's just how it is. Hopefully I've kind of explained it enough so I won't get too much hate on it, but yeah. Now, next thing we have to talk about is, of course, the movie. Now, this is a tricky one to kind of get into. I don't think this movie is. I think it has a little bit of trouble, and I'll explain why. So, when this movie was initially announced, it's a first-time project by Spyglass Media Group, which was formerly Spyglass Entertainment. So obviously, it's basically the same company, same people involved. but they've changed the company name and things like that. And this was going to be one of the first titles that they had looked to actively get involved in after this re-emergence, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, so to speak. Now, they had initially announced that it would be a reimagining of the original film, and that Goyer would be attached, right? And he would be producing, David Goyer. Now, David Goyer has done some absolutely fantastic work, but he's a red flag if he's just solely attached to the project. He's a great ideas man, but he needs those ideas to be fleshed out and changed by other people. So, initial announcement, reimagining of the original film, Goyer attached, okay? Sort of red flag, but, good to see it return. And it was announced that it would 100% be released in theatres. That was going to be a return to silver screen. Cool. Epic. Really, really good. Then we had some new announcements here and there that it has a director, which is David Bruckner, I believe. It's David Bruckner. Let me just confirm. David Bruckner, yes, who did The Ritual. And he also did some horror anthologies, VHS, and directed Night House. So, good director, actually. Very, very good director. Good to have him on board. But then it would have screenwriters attached as well. Okay. So then that starts to kind of blur the lines of what we're getting here. Is David Goyer attached? If he's attached and it's just a reimagining of the original film, how much story needs to be done? Because in this new report, which was by THR, I'll leave both of these articles that I've been discussing and using as a point of reference down below in the description box. In the initial one, it was stated that it would be story by Goyer and then fleshed out by two new writers who have worked with David Bruckner in the past. And that's where we start to see things change and develop and move. And it sways to the positive because, of course, Goyer's a good ideas man and he needs his ideas fleshed out. But how much ideas do you need for a reimagining of the original film? It starts to kind of blur the lines and you start to question it a little bit, don't you? Now, from here, that's where we're at now, right? We've got a TV series in the works, okay, confirmed. They're raring to go to at least announce it that it's going to be on HBO. We don't know the timeline for the TV series. I'm looking to hopefully get some interviews, some information, maybe some bits and pieces, correspondence with people working on the film. I don't know. I'm going to try my best, obviously, because I'm sort of known for Hellraiser, I guess, in some regards. And I'd love to be a point of contact for the Hellraiser fandom to at least get some information direct from the people involved, right? But then, of course, we get the movie. And it's looking a little bit rocky, isn't it? So that's where we're at. Personally, I like the sound more of the TV series. The movie we have to see develop. We have to see it develop. And I think, why now? Why have they both been announced at such a short period of time? Because they're not attached to one another in any way, shape or form. They're not attached at all. The movie has been rumoured and rumbling for a really, really long time. We've been talking about reboots and remakes for years. I myself have covered the Clive Barker remake script, the reboot script. I've done two of them, in fact. I've done them here on my channel. The long lost ones, which no one seems to have got a hold of. I've got them, and I've covered them here on my channel. Kind of middling quality here and there and interesting elements, but by and large, definitely not worthy of a reboot or remake movie. So why now? Well, we had obviously all the issue with Harvey Weinstein, and it is inevitably part of this story. The rights have sort of kind of circumvented around people, gone back to Miramax, because they were with New Line, I believe. Then Miramax, now Miramax have chucked them back out to another company, Spyglass Media Group, and then Spyglass is looking to push them along with Scream 5 or Scream 6. There's so many bloody Scream films now. So that's why the movie's happening. The TV series, that came out of left field, completely out of left field, but is probably the more promising of the two because there is a wealth of comics. If you didn't know there was Hellraiser comics, good God, I'm opening your eyes to a whole world of Hellraiser mythos that you really need to get involved in. So there you go. I think both of these properties being separate is actually going to be of benefit. And I think now what we're going to see is hopefully the two competing parties looking to get their iteration of Hellraiser out there polished. I'm not saying rushed, but polished, ready as quickly as possible, because it will probably be the marker and the yardstick for the measurement against the other. So it'll be interesting to see, and I also think it'll be healthy competition for both of these properties. So there you go. That's the current state of the Hellraiser franchise. I hope you enjoyed this really long-winded video. I didn't intend it to be this long, but you guys know me. I can talk about Hellraiser apparently for 20 plus minutes, and I could have just kept going. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give it a massive thumbs up. Really, really would appreciate it. Really does help the channel out. Also, just for returning subscribers and people that are here and things like that know, YouTube's not sending notifications out on my channel anymore. I don't know why, but please do follow me over on Twitter, because I tweet my videos. So at Mr.H_Reviews. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. It's not me begging for follows. I'd rather not. I don't really like Twitter, but it is par for the course. Sorry. Also, if you are a subscriber, just check that your bell is, the bell notifications are turned on for all, or notify all. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I have been Mr. H. Take care.